Ambassador, what comes after F-16?
Well, F-16 is significant. Let's not just gloss over that and say, okay, now what's next? F-16s are a highly capable multi-role aircraft. Ukrainian pilots, I'm sure, will be very good flying these aircraft. They will allow range and air superiority for Ukraine over its own airspace, and it will help Ukraine in pushing back Russian occupation forces. So this is already quite significant, and I think you're going to start seeing transfers of these later this year. That is a big step. What's still missing are the longest range missiles and artillery that the U.S. could provide to Ukraine, but so far has not done. Those will also be important to helping Ukraine reestablish control of its territory.
And we are very grateful for our allies and partners for this help. Putin has already lost. This is obvious, but he continues to convulsively terrorize Ukraine. How much longer he will be able to do this? Your vision of the end of the Russian war in Ukraine?
Right. Unfortunately, I think Vladimir Putin has given himself no way out. He's committed to the war. He has convinced himself that Ukraine doesn't actually exist as a country and as a national identity. So he's determined to prove himself right and exterminate Ukraine. That means that his forces have to be stopped militarily, and we have to be prepared to continue to defend Ukraine borders as long as Putin is in power. I think the Russian people are starting to realize that he has driven them over a cliff, and this is not going to end well for Russia. So perhaps there's an opportunity for change in Russia. But until there is, I think we have to be prepared to help Ukraine defend itself.
Ambassador, do you really think the Russian people are starting to realize this?
I do. Look at all the infighting going on within the Russian military forces. You have Kadyrov and you have Prigozhin of the Wagner Group, Ministry of Defense, regular armed forces, all accusing each other of failure. You have people in Russian society just sort of shutting down, not engaging. You have people fleeing the country because when they try to impose conscription, they know they're just going to be conscripted and die, so they'd rather leave the country instead. So there's all kinds of warning signs, flashing red lights going on in Russia right now.
Ambassador, the United States of America is going through a rather difficult period with the possibility of declaring its first in the history default in the country's history. With this in mind, will the bipartisan support for Ukraine continue at the same level as before?
Yeah, they're separate issues, and they're also separate in timing. The immediate issue, that is to say in the next week or two, is the debt ceiling. Lawmakers are meeting with President Biden. They're trying to negotiate a formula for raising the debt ceiling so that the U.S. does not default on its payments. I'm optimistic that that will eventually get done. We're not there yet, but that is something that I think has to happen first. Aid for Ukraine is already approved by Congress back last December in a sufficient quantity to take us through September or October. That means that Ukraine assistance is not caught up in this debt package negotiation. Then we'll have a situation after the debt ceiling is raised where you will have this Ukrainian counteroffensive, hopefully very successful, and then we'll have to pass a new batch of assistance for Ukraine in the August-September time frame. I'm optimistic that that will happen as well. There is, as you said, very strong bipartisan support for Ukraine in the House and in the Senate. And I think they want to take a vote as soon as possible this autumn in order to make sure that we don't have to have any more votes during the presidential election.
Oh, I see. Thank you for this help. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Latest news, trends and analytics on Spotlight Ukraine. Like, share and subscribe.